The reproductive system, the reason we are on this earth.
The reproductive system is the organs and the glands in the body that aid in the production of new individuals. The reproductive system is critical to human existence as it allows for the manufacturing of new organisms. Because humans reproduce sexually, there are two different reproductive systems in both males and females.
The male system is made up of several structures that ultimately result in the ability for sperm to reach an egg. The female system is built around the egg and the ability to harbor the zygote and release the mature baby.
To understand these systems better, we will visit three scenarios. Scenario 1. Steve went to the doctor to understand a little more about the body of a male.
Hi, doctor. I'm a little confused about my body. Can you help me clear some things up?
Of course. What would you like to know?
Is the role of the male reproductive system to manufacture, store, and deliver sperm to the female reproductive system in order to fertilize the egg?
Yes. In fact, there are several key structures in the male reproductive system. The first structure we will discuss is the scrotum. The scrotum is an external sac that contains the testes. The scrotum is necessary for the growth of sperm as it's about 2 degrees Celsius to 3 degrees Celsius cooler than the average body temperature. The normal body temperature is about 37 degrees Celsius, which is much too warm for the development of sperm. Next, we will discuss the testes, which are two egg-shaped glands that produce the gametes of the male system, also known as sperm. The testes are about 4 centimeters long and 2.5 centimeters in diameter. The testes have about 250 compartments, each filled with tightly coiled tubules known as seminiferous tubules. Each tubule is about 80 centimeters long. The seminiferous tubules are critical to the male reproductive system as they allow for sperm to form through meiosis. The seminiferous tubules provide a special lining in which meiosis can occur. Sperm begins to form when a male begins to go through puberty. A mature male's anterior pituitary gland will release 2 hormones that stimulate sperm production. The first hormone is luteinizing hormone, or LH. This stimulates the secretion of testosterone, which is a male sex hormone, by the cells in the seminiferous tubules. The second hormone that stimulates sperm production is the follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH. Once the hormone gives a signal for sperm to form, meiosis begins to occur. Meiosis, that produces the male gamete cells, sperm cells, or spermatozoa, is also known as spermatogenesis. During spermatogenesis, a diploid reproductive cell divides into 2 haploid cells through meiosis I, which then divides into 4 haploid cells through meiosis II, which are then known as spermatids. These spermatids eventually mature into a sperm cell. A mature sperm cell consists of 3 main regions: the head, which penetrates the protective layers of the egg and holds the chromosomes, the midpiece, which contains mitochondria that powers the sperm, and the tail, which propels the sperm, also known as flagellum. Once the sperm is developed, it is able to begin its journey to the female reproductive system.
And how do I deliver my sperm to my significant other?
Once your sperm form in the seminiferous tubes, they pass to the epididymis, which is a long coiled tubule which is closely attached to each testes. Within each epididymis, a sperm matures and develops a flagellum. When the sperm is ready to leave the epididymis, it passes through the vas deferens, which is a duct that extends from the epididymis. Contractions in each vas deferens move the sperm as they exit the body. Each vas deferens loops around the urinary bladder and merges with the urethra. Here the sperm mixes with nourishing fluids, which make up the semen that are secreted by 3 exocrine glands. The first gland is the seminal vesicle, which produces a sugar-rich fluid from which the sperm get energy. The next gland is the prostate gland, which secretes alkaline fluid that neutralizes the acids in the female system. The final gland is the borborithal gland, which secretes alkaline fluid that neutralizes acidic urine in the urethra of the male.
And how does the sperm leave my body?
What a good question, Steve. When the male becomes sexually aroused, the penis becomes erect. The penis is the organ that deposits sperm into the female reproductive system. The semen is forcefully expelled through the penis. This process is known as ejaculation. Unfortunately, most of the sperm die before reaching the site of fertilization.
Thank you, doctor. I am enlightened.
Scenario 2. Like Steve, Susie wanted to learn about her reproductive system.
I have a few questions, Doc.
Yeah, sure. I'll do anything for you.
Anything?
Anything.
Thanks, Doc. So I was wondering, Does the female reproductive system prepare the female eggs and nourish the developing baby?
Why, of course it does.
How?
Well, first, let me explain a little bit about the structure of the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system contains the ovaries, which are the gamete-producing organs of the reproductive system. The ovaries are about 3.5 centimeters long and 2 centimeters in diameter. Then the ovaries release a matured egg cell into the fallopian tube, which leads to the uterus, a hollow muscular organ where the egg develops. The lower entrance to the uterus is the cervix. Within the cervix, there is a sphincter that opens and closes the uterus. The vagina, a muscular tube that receives sperm from the penis, acts as a passageway for childbirth. It leads the cervix to the exterior of the body. The exterior structures, together, are called the vulva, which include the labia, or folds of skin and mucous membrane. They protect the opening of the female reproductive system.
Wait, how do I get these eggs?
Well, a female is born with over 400,000 eggs. These eggs are immature and cannot be fertilized. These eggs stall in prophase 1. When a female goes through puberty, sex hormones stimulate the egg and to produce 2 haploid cells. One becomes a polar body while the other continues on to become a mature egg. Then meiosis II can occur, but not without the egg becoming fertilized by sperm. After meiosis II is complete, a second polar body is formed and the mature egg becomes the ovum. However, after puberty, a mature egg is released every 28 days. Eggs form through meiosis just like sperm, but the results differ. Egg formation forms only one functional egg. The others are polar bodies or non-functional.
So I heard such a thing about an ovarian cycle and menstruation.
Menstruation is a phase within the ovarian cycle. I will explain the ovarian cycle first. The ovarian cycle has 3 stages. The first stage, the follicular stage, lasts between 1 and 14 days. Here, the mature egg completes its first series of mitotic divisions and growth. FSH, or the follicle-stimulating hormone, is released during this period. FSH stimulates cell division in the follicle, which is the layer of cells that surrounds the immature egg. FSH also stimulates the release of estrogen. The release of estrogen causes positive feedback, which stimulates the secreting of luteinizing hormone, or LH, which then stimulates ovulation, the second stage in the ovarian cycle. The release of an egg from a ruptured follicle is ovulation. After ovulation, the egg is sent to the fallopian tube, which stores the egg for about 24 hours. The cells of the ruptured follicle form a new structure called the corpus luteum. This is the final stage, and it is called the luteal phase, which lasts from days 15 to 28. The corpus luteum secretes large amounts of progesterone, which stimulates the growth of blood vessels and the storage of fluids in the lining of the uterus. The increased levels of these hormones cause the drop in LH and FSH. If the egg is not fertilized, the ovarian cycle is ended and the lining that was created begins to fall off. This is called menstruation, better known as a woman's period, where the lining and blood vessels are discharged through the vagina. Menstruation will continue throughout most of the woman's life until about age 50, where the cycle is stopped due to a decrease in hormones. This is known as menopause.
Susie thanks the doctor and leaves his office. This is when her and Steve locks eyes. It was love at first sight. Scenario 3. 48 to 72 hours later, after their sperm and egg unite in the fallopian tube, Steve and Susie went back to the doctor to learn about pregnancy.
Hi, doctor. Susie thinks she is pregnant. Can you tell us a little bit about the situation?
Of course. So when a sperm and an egg fuse, they form a zygote. This is considered fertilization. Let's talk about this on a microscopic level. Once the sperm enters the woman's reproductive system, it travels through the vagina, cervix, uterus, and into the fallopian tubes. If ovulation has recently occurred, the sperm may encounter an egg. The sperm's head penetrates the egg membrane, and the nucleus and the midpiece of the sperm enter the cytoplasm of the egg. The sperm's electrical charges prevent any other sperm from penetrating the egg also. While the sperm is in the egg completes meiosis II, and the egg and sperm's nucleus is fused. From this process results a zygote, and that is the whole process of fertilization.
Okay. Well, that's in the past. Now what will happen?
The zygote rapidly divides, and this process is called cleavage. Morula, a ball of cells, is produced by cleavage. A blastocyst is formed when the morula divide and release a fluid. At this point, the blastocyst has reached and attached to the uterine lining. The blastocyst goes through a process of implantation, which is when the blastocyst embeds itself into the lining of the uterus. This is when pregnancy officially occurs. So when should we visit you to check up on the pregnancy and the baby?
There are 3 trimesters, which would be the perfect times to visit. The first 8 weeks, which account for the most dramatic changes in human development, are known as the first trimester. At this point, an embryo is developed from the inner surface of the blastocyst. Eventually, the cells gather together into 3 germ layers: the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. These all eventually form into different parts of the body. During this period, the female develops 4 membranes. The first is the amnion, which forms the amniotic sac, which surrounds and cushions the developing embryo. The second membrane forms the yolk sac. This sac is where the first blood cell originates. The allantosis is the third membrane formed. The final membrane formed is the chorion membrane. This membrane forms chorionic villi, which are small finger-like projections that invade the placenta. The placenta is where the mother nourishes the embryo. The umbilical cord attaches the embryo and the placenta. Early in the second week, a hormone called human chorionic gonadotrophin is produced by the placenta, which tells the corpus luteum to continue producing hormones. At this point, the child starts to develop a nervous system. At the 5th week, extremities begin to develop. From the end of the first trimester, the child is called a fetus. After 13 weeks, the second trimester occurs. The skeleton begins to form, movement occurs, and the heartbeat can be heard. And the soft hair layer, lanugo, grows over the skin. At this point, the baby is about 2 pounds. The third trimester begins at week 28, and the fetus rapidly grows, developing changes that allow it to survive without the mother. The baby begins to develop stronger senses. During the second half of this trimester, the fetus will develop fat deposits, which insulate the body and give a less wrinkled appearance. Wow, that's fascinating! But what happens when the baby is developed?
Approximately 270 days after your egg is fertilized, you'll give birth to a child. Childbirth is a trigger by prostaglandin, a hormone made up of fatty acids and hormones. The muscles of the uterus then contract when the body has high levels of estrogen, prostaglandins, oxytocin, and pituitary hormones. Then you go through what is called breaking water, in which the amniotic sac is broken. Amniotic. The mucus plug is removed, and the fluid flows out through the vagina. From here until birth, contractions of the uterus and other events that occur are known as labor. Then, the vagina and the cervix relax, allowing the vagina to enlarge and deliver the baby. After the baby is delivered, the afterbirth is expelled, which consists of the placenta, amnion, and uterine lining. Okay, thanks, Doc. We'll be back soon for checkups.